and welcome to VSA Capital 5 Minute Winning Miner on Friday, the 30th of July. It's another beautiful sunny day. Morning, Ollie. How are you?
Yep, very good. Thanks, Andrew. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm in very good form. And I had a very good day yesterday down at the Great Wheel Vore, visiting Tamar Minerals and the drill rig, which was in place. Priority drilling were there already, getting excited. Still got to put some hay bales around it, which suppress the noise. But what was encouraging was it is in a farmer's field. There's a campsite next door, but they're all happy about what's going on. It is right next door to Talk Cornish Tin, who have actually drilled through the Great Wheel Vore and proven there's tin there. At the end of the day, the Great Wheel Vore, 200 years ago, was one of Cornwall's richest tin mines with grades of about 5%. So it's almost like you're on a two-horse race where you're the favourite and the odds are 5-1. I think there's no question about they're going to hit tin. This is a very tin-rich area. It's just we obviously want the grades higher than 3% and good widths. The Great Wheel Vore was a phenomenally famous mine. It's flooded now, so you will have to put in a new decline if we discover what we think we'll discover. But again, that's not a problem because the sort of values you're talking about are of in-place resource are in the sort of hundreds of millions, almost billions of tin resource potentially. So, to be honest with you, it's up there with South Crofty. South Crofty, of course, isn't that far away. We'll be building a process plant. So you've also got a natural process plant to be toll milling with. It's really pretty damn exciting for such a teeny weeny company. But anyway, there you go. I was down there. The CEO, Don Claridge, was down there. He was very excited. He's learned a lot about Cornwall in the last month or so since he joined, and he's very upbeat. So yeah, it was a pretty useful little trip. And I suspect I'll be back down again either later in August or in September to see how the drilling's going. And of course, they'll be taking the cores, cutting them in half, taking them back to their office in Scoria, sending them off to Ireland for assays, which we'll hear about autumn. But by looking at the core, you'll be able to sort of have a bit of a feel that things are going well. Anyway, there you go. That was my trip in Cornwall yesterday. Why don't we kick off actually with a small one today? You may have others you want to talk about, Ollie, where a new CEO has been appointed, but it's one we're watching very closely because it's interesting. And the new CEO, Peter Secker, he's actually joining in mid-October, Ferro Alloys. We have a lot of time for him, don't we, Ollie?
Yeah, Peter's got a pretty good track record with companies at this sort of stage of development in fairly difficult jurisdictions. Mongolia, Mexico, Cameroon, all places where you've really got to understand how the locals work in order to make progress. So I think he'll be able to do a good job from that perspective. At Ferro Alloys, which has been at DFS stage for some time, just waiting to push past that final hurdle and get to project financing. Interestingly, there's quite a lot of focus on the rare earth potential. That's always been known about. The flow sheets have been designed such that you could add on an extra rare earth circuit, and that's always been mentioned in each of the previous PFSs, but I don't think it's ever been quantified in too much detail. The original sort of multi-billion MPVs were focused on a handful of the metals, vanadium being the main one, but this is this deposit has a huge range of minerals which could be extracted, and so the companies had to focus on the specific flow sheets.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I mean, it had a lot of uranium as well, actually, which is quite interesting. It's a huge asset. And that's the problem. It's such a big asset. It needs quite serious financing. But Peter Secker is very good at bringing in financing. It's interesting. The market has marked the stock down quite significantly this morning, down to 3.75p, probably because they're saying, well, look, this is going to bring in a major piece of financing. You've obviously already got Vision Blue Resources there. We've acted for Ferro Alloys in the past. We know the asset pretty well. We last raised, I think it was at 7p and 8p, and then it shot up to 40p. We then sort of drew stumps and let somebody else go and do the batting and went back to the pavilion. But here at 3.75p, it's going to start to look very, very interesting. So I'm quite excited about what's going on there, Robbie.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think picking up on your rare earth point, actually, it's slightly off news in the morning, but there's an article in the FT today talking about how there are some huge short positions starting to occur in some of the US listed rare earths and critical metals companies that have gone to these massive, billion-dollar market caps. And what these short positions are saying at the hedge funds is that, sure, there's a bit of a shortage of these things and they're very valuable, but the valuations in some of them, because everyone's got so excited about the US getting involved, have gone off the scale. So I would just point that out because we have the same sort of feeling that one or two valuations, yes, it's very exciting, but some have just gone too far and you won't be able to justify it even when they get into production. And commodity prices do go up and down. So you do want to, get out of maybe certain commodity stocks that, particularly if they're in production, that have gone to massive valuations and rotate round into, things like ferro alloys or tamar minerals, which have got huge potential, but are valued very, very lowly. Just a small Friday thought for you. Anyway, back to you, Ollie. Other news.
Well, sticking to the theme of management changes, Hercules Metals, they received investment from Barrick a year or so ago, but they're having a sort of wholesale change of senior management. The chap who's been running this project from the start steps back to a more exploration focused role, but they're bringing in a team led by George Ogilvy, who's got a phenomenal track record of selling projects and developing them from sort of resource stage through to an exit. So that is quite a significant appointment, I think. And there's some other executive changes as well there, but that's the big one.
Well, and again, on executives, we've said many a time on this podcast, following the right people is really, really important because they get to see the right deals. They have the right teams to make them work. They know how to access financing. So following a successful mining entrepreneur is really key when investing in mining.
In terms of earnings, we've got numbers out from First Majestic, their Q2 figures, 3.8 million ounces of silver, that's up 3% year on year, and 34,660 ounces of gold, that's up 2% year on year. So modest increases there, but they have actually increased their guidance to 14.6 to 15.5, so the midpoint of the guidance is up by 10% and 7% for gold. That's now at 128 to 135,000 ounces, so pretty big numbers. That is offset slightly by the fact that capex is increasing by about $100 million from 213 to 230 up to 318 to 344 million. But their balance sheet is in a pretty strong position now. Their cash is over $1.2 billion. They've been growing the portfolio with various acquisitions and then selling the non-core stuff. As we know, Sierra Madre bought two of those projects, La Guitarra and most recently Del Toro.
Yep. Okay. Any others you want to mention? Because we have been talking now for nearly 10 minutes.
No, I think that's plenty for today.
Very good. It's a double edition of the 5-Minute Morning Miner for everybody. Have a great weekend, and I'll be back on Monday. Ollie, you're going on holiday. Where are you going?
Devon.
Very nice. Not quite as nice as Cornwall. There you go. Have a great time, and I'll be talking probably with David Scriven. All right. See you, everybody.
This podcast has been produced and edited by VSA Capital. It is intended for information purposes and not as investment advice. The information is intended for recipients who understand the risks associated with equity investments in smaller companies. Please do your own research and do not rely on a single source when making an investment decision. VSA Capital may derive fees from this content and seeks to do business with the companies mentioned.